Oh, you hear that? What is that? That's got to be my intro music. Let's see if I remember how to do this.
I always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider.
All right, and you are back. We are back with Bookmarks with Bump, the social commentary podcast where I, Bump, Sean Patrick Cote, give my take on all things happening in the world today, whether it be sports, health, fitness, mental health. Who knows? We might even touch on politics, God, and religion. Anything is on the table when it comes to Twitter and my bookmark threads. That's what we do here on this podcast. We go through my bookmark threads. We go tweet by tweet, we give a little take on it, and we move on to the next one. And try to fill in the space with whatever comes up. I'm a little bit fired up today. Why am I fired up, you might ask? Well, I am back. I am back from vacation. A lot of you probably didn't even know I was on vacation, and that was by design. For two reasons. Number one, I wanted to continue releasing the podcast on the schedule because consistency is key. The only way you're going to reach any goal in your life is by working towards it consistently and doing good work, working hard, working diligently, and sticking to the plan. You might hear a lot of times in life, all a man has is his balls and his word. So let me stick to both of those. Number two, it's a great way to not let your house get robbed. Hey, I'm leaving town for a whole week. The whole place is going to be empty. Free house. Do whatever you want. Who knows? I might have came back to a squatter. Instead, I just came back to ceiling tiles being knocked down from my cat who likes to run inside of the house, inside of the ceiling. Anywho, I had the pleasure of going up to Maine. I got to visit my beautiful Mima and spend the week with my father celebrating his birthday, which coincidentally falls on July 4th. If anybody has had the pleasure of meeting Papa Bump, you will know that he is quite the firecracker, so there's no coincidence with him being born on that day. But I go up to Maine, and it's great. It's a very pleasurable experience. I love it up there. It's so peaceful. It feels like home. The motto for Maine, it used to be when you first got into the state, it used to say Maine, the way life should be, or Maine, vacation land. Now it says Maine, welcome home. But it is kind of the way life should be. I've noticed that when I'm running up there, everything feels peaceful. I feel like I can move. I feel free. It's like I'm running through the forest no matter what street I'm running on. Even when you get into the cities of Maine, like Portland or Windham, they are very put together cities. They're not really scraping the sky. It's a very eclectic feeling everywhere you go in that state. And I love it. I love being there. I really do. This year coming home, it was kind of a different feeling for me. Like, I was excited to come home and see my people and, continue to work towards the plans that I have going. And I felt like I got a very warm welcome home. Getting into the gym yesterday was awesome. I get back to the gym and all of the regulars are there and they're there to greet me. And it was just a great time when I first got back. So much better than the Planet Fitness that I was going to. I hate to say it, but I cannot do a Planet Fitness. I think I might just stick to the resistance bands when I go up there. However, it was awesome for my brother and I to continue to be consistent on our training when it comes to lifting weights. And considering all of the things I ate up there, it was definitely something that I needed. When you're up in Maine, they treat the common cold with peanut brittle and whoopie pies. And, as comforting as that is, it's not always the healthiest way to approach things, okay? That instant release you get from a sugary treat is so, so sweet, but what happens in the long run is something that could really cause a detriment to your life. And one of the things that it could cause is one of the things that I've been talking about on the podcast a lot. And I found this thread and I thought, wow, this would be a great way to dive in and teach more about what insulin resistance really is. I found this thread when I was scrolling through one day, and it basically displays what I've been talking about when it comes to the foods that they tell us to avoid aren't really the foods that we should avoid. More often than not, the foods that they point us towards are foods that are going to point us towards an early grave or a ton of discomfort. So, I found this thread, and it goes a little something like this. Heart disease is the leading cause of death. But it's insulin resistance that causes heart disease, strokes, cancers, and other inflammatory conditions. Since your doctor won't help you avoid it, here are 42 sentences that will. I didn't realize that this was 42 sentences. But whatever, we got time to kill. This is a podcast. I can go for as long as I want. Let's begin, okay? Number 1, insulin resistance occurs due to poor metabolic health. When you eat, your pancreas naturally releases insulin to absorb the sugar out of your bloodstream into the muscle, fat, and liver cells. Number 3, so that was 1 and 2, by the way. I'm really sorry about that. Like I said, I'm on a tear right now. I'm just rolling. I got home. I was so excited to see my people, so excited to get back to work and realize that I remembered everything that I've learned over the last couple years. I'm bouncing all over the place. Okay, let's get back to number 3. If sugar levels are chronically elevated, your body, like a drug addict, requires more insulin to have the same effect. Number 4. You can be insulin resistant without any symptoms, since it's a leading indicator and blood sugar is a lagging indicator. Number 5. Once the pancreas is forced to start putting out more insulin, the body begins the process of dealing with the increased inflammation. Number 6. Over 88% of the population are not metabolically healthy based on blood pressure, blood sugar, triglycerides, or waist circumference. 7. Type 2 diabetes is really an advanced case of insulin resistance. 8. A waist measurement of 40 inches or more for men is linked to insulin resistance, which also happens to be the average waist size for men over 25. Number 9. You can have insulin resistance without being overweight. And this is a big one. A lot of people think that just because they're in a good spot with where their body is, they could eat whatever they want. And I'm one of these people. When I was up in Maine, I had whoopie pies, I had hot dogs, I had hamburgers, I had chocolate cake, I had ice cream, I had cookies, I had whatever my grandma was throwing at me, I was eating it because that's what you do for your Mima. She's a beautiful, wonderful, caring woman who's a top-notch hostess. You are not going to let her down by saying no. You never say no to your grandmother. Just chew it and spit it out in the garbage or go to the bathroom, excuse yourself early, and get rid of it that way. I'm just kidding. That's a little bit crazy. Number 10. Exercise and physical activity allow the muscle to pull sugar from your bloodstream and use it for fuel. Number 11. Walking before or after meals, even for just 5 minutes, helps to stabilize the blood sugar. 12. Muscle is the most metabolically active tissue. The more of it you build, the more insulin sensitive you'll be, all else being equal. And this is a big topic that I bring up when I talk to my brother or anybody who has any questions for me when it comes to fitness, getting in shape, how I look the way I look, whatever it is that they're trying to work on. I always, always, always tell them more muscle. Spending your time doing cardio, I get it that I'm a runner, right? And that's what I do. But I'm also lifting weights all the time. I'm also training for strength all of the time. I'm building muscle. I want that lean mass because what the lean mass does is boost your metabolism. With a more muscle-laden body, you're going to burn more calories at rest than you would if you were 20 pounds less than me with zero muscle at all. Number 13. Added sugar and refined grains are the foods most closely linked to insulin resistance. A lot of that is because your body is working overtime to digest these foods. They are unnatural ingredients that your body isn't used to. We're not acclimated to these types of things. If you're going to eat grains, eat grains that are locally grown, much like anything else that you should be having. There's a reason why when you're having a cold or if you're dealing with allergies, people tell you to use local honey because the pollination that the bees are getting are from the same area that are causing your allergies. So if you're taking in that pollination, that's like a vaccination for the pollen in your area. Number 14. Drinking your calories is a recipe for poor metabolic health. Sodas, energy drinks, chalky milks, milkshakes. These things that go down so fast, like your Starbucks mocha frappa latte that you drink in the morning, you're chugging that thing down. But you don't realize there's 55 grams of sugar in that thing, and you should only have 30 grams of sugar per day. Number 15, heart disease is an inflammatory cascade kicked off by insulin resistance. not cholesterol or meat. And I believe a thread that was related to meat was something that made me bring insulin resistance up in the first place. Number 16, a diet high in omega-6, omega-3 ratio of fatty acids is linked to increased inflammation and disease. Number 17, seed oils, canola, safflower, sunflower, soybean have high omega-6-3 ratios and are added to the majority of packaged foods because they are cheap and have a long shelf life. Number 18, eating more eggs and less toast for breakfast will improve your HDL, which is good cholesterol, while decreasing harmful triglycerides. People will avoid eggs because of the fat content in eggs, and they'd rather have an avocado toast. Avocado toast is great. I love a good avocado spread. But the grains inside of that bread are far worse for you than that yolk. Number 19, sun exposure decreased insulin resistance, insulin levels, and triglycerides in a study on diabetics. Interesting. Being out in nature is good for you. Who would have thought? 20. Inactivity and obesity are the number one associations with insulin resistance. And I'd argue that inactivity is the number one association with obesity. And obesity could be the number one association with inactivity. They all go hand in hand. What a throuple we have here. 21. Carbs are not the enemy for everyone, but for those with insulin resistance, or specifically type 2 diabetes, reducing carb intake should be a focus until a normal baseline is achieved. And why is this? This is because every time we digest a carbohydrate, our body metabolizes it into a sugar. This sugar is either going to be stored in your muscles as glycogen, or it's going to be stored in your body as fat. And if you have an influx of insulin being released, where do you think that's going to go? It's not going to break down all the sugar because you already have the sugar in your bloodstream. It's going to turn it into fat, and it's going to store it around your waist. It's going to store it in your thighs. It's going to store it in your ass. Wherever you're built to store fat, that's where it's going to be sent to when you're dealing with insulin resistance. Number 22, fasting has shown promising results for glucose control, gut health, and improving insulin sensitivity. Number 23, a high triglyceride to HDL ratio is one of the biggest risk factors for increased mortality. Now let's remind ourselves, triglycerides are fats. HDL is good cholesterol. 24, conversely, a low ratio drastically decreases mortality risk. Triglycerides and HDL are both affected by improving your metabolic health. 25, resistance training raises HDL and lowers triglycerides and blood sugar. 26. Inflammation of blood vessel walls leads to a cascade that can eventually choke off the blood supply, resulting in heart attacks and strokes. Those little fatty triglycerides that are flowing through your bloodstream have a tendency to stick to the walls of your arteries, stick to the walls of your veins. And what happens in that instance? That's where we get plaque buildup. That's where we get a blockage. And that's where you can get blood cut off to your heart or your brain or wherever the hell it's supposed to go that it's not going. What we eat is what we are. And if all we're eating is bad food, it's going to fill us up, keep us full, and not the type of full we want, because it's not a satisfying full. If you're looking for satisfaction, you got to look for the protein so you could build that lean muscle. And the more lean muscle you build, like I've said, the more lean muscle you have, the more you burn at rest. And the more you burn at rest, the better off you'll be. Number 27, abdominal fat and insulin resistance results in inflammation to your organs that can eventually result in various cancers. And this is called a visceral fat, the fat that sticks to your organs and builds on the inside of your body. This is a storage we don't want. Everybody has subcutaneous fat, which is the fat that lies directly underneath your skin. That's okay. We can lose that. But once you build visceral fat, you cannot lose it. 28. Muscle mass lost due to aging greatly affects insulin sensitivity, but can be combated with resistance training. Now listen to me. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. If you want to take one piece of advice from me, this should be the one piece of advice you take. You don't have to run like me, okay? You don't have to compete in races. You don't have to go for winning medals. If you're going to do anything at all, pick up a weight and continue to pick it up every day. Not every day. You don't have to do it every day. But you want to find a training program that your body agrees with that allows you to feel comfortable. Find a way to train against something, against this resistance, right? Train against something. The something is resistance. Train against something that's pushing back on you, that's enjoyable. The biggest thing about exercise is that some people look at it as a chore, and yeah, sometimes it is. But how much better does your house feel when it's clean? When you're lifting a weight, think about it as you're picking up a broom and you're sweeping the clutter from your body. This is a chore that's going to pay you back time and time again. 29. Studies show that strength-trained 70-year-olds can have greater quad strength than untrained 30-year-olds. Resistance training is the fountain of youth. Told you. 30. Insulin resistance places you at a higher risk for hypertension, type 2 diabetes, all-cause mortality, majority of cancers, Alzheimer's disease. Insulin resistance is prevented or reversed by fasting, lifting weights, shredding weight, regular activity such as walking, reducing processed foods that are filled with those oils that we spoke about before. Number 31. Reversing your insulin resistance will result in improved energy levels, less cravings for junk food, improved mental life, longer, happier life. Number 32. Your children are more likely to have insulin resistance if you do, though this is more due to sharing your lifestyle than sharing your genetics. Now think about this when you have a child in your life. The habits that you're taking, the habits that you're forming, or the habits that you've formed are going to turn into habits that they're forming. They're going to see you and idolize you. No matter how much they tell you they hate you or don't like you or don't want to spend time around you, they love you and they look up to you. So be a good example. Number 33, diets high in protein are inversely correlated with insulin resistance. 34, refined grains like breads and pastas are quickly broken down into sugar in your bloodstream, which takes away the need for the insulin that your body's producing. If it's quickly broken down, your body doesn't need the insulin to further break it down. And that's why when we're eating these pasta and grains that are refined, that are made from refined wheats, the refined wheats are already broken down to a point where they're going to turn into sugar instantly in your bloodstream. They don't need insulin. If you want those things, find them organic. Chronic sugar in your bloodstream is damaging to the blood vessels and results in crashes in energy when your body has to respond with a burst of insulin. Now think about that. You're having a sweet treat and you go, oh, this is going to give me that sugar rush that I need to get through the day. But it's not. The rush is produced from your body. Okay? The energy is produced inside of you. Now, if you're doing something that's going to require you to burn, that's going to drag you down. And that's what producing the insulin starts to do. Number 36. Type 2 diabetes occurs when your pancreas fails to produce enough insulin to manage the sugar. But the damage starts well before that. Number 37. Cardiologists were not important doctors years ago because heart disease is a modern issue caused by factory food and inactivity. Why aren't they cracking that code? 38. Reversing even advanced insulin resistance is possible with the right mental fortitude, plan, and lifestyle adjustments. But the longer you wait, the more challenging it becomes. The longer you wait, the more bricks you're putting into that wall. It's going to be hard to hit it with that wrecking ball and tear it down. 39. When in doubt, eat farm foods, meat, eggs, dairy, and whole vegetables. 40. Resistance training helps build and maintain muscle, even in the elderly, which is perhaps when it's needed the most. See, now that I go through this, it really didn't need to be 42 sentences. Resistance training helps build and maintain muscle, even in the elderly. We've touched on the elderly being... let me not get mad at this guy now that I've already gotten so far through it. Number 41. People with heart disease have more... Oh, boy. People with heart disease have more linoleic... They have more linoleic acid in their fat tissues. Linoleic acid makes up 20 to 70% of seed oils like soybean, canola, sunflower, and corn oils. What is that? Huh. I'm going to have to look into linoleic acid. Number 42, exercise is important, but an active lifestyle is just as critical. Walk, bike, chase your kids, take the stairs, pick a 5K race, and put it on the calendar as motivation. Movement is our friend. We're almost like sharks. We have to keep moving. We have to keep swimming. Imagine yourself as Dory in Finding Nemo and just keep swimming through life. What do? We get bored. What do you do when you get bored? You get bored, you sit down, you play a video game, you turn on the TV, or you eat. Those are a couple of things that you can do. How much of that is building you? How much of that is making you better? I can't put my finger on it. I don't think I've ever gotten better from watching a TV show. I don't think I've ever improved as a person from playing a video game. And I definitely haven't really improved from eating unless if it was after or before a workout or it was food that was fuel for my body. Until I started looking at food as something that's not for pleasure, I started to look at real growth in my life. Ironically, the growth was shrinking. Insulin resistance is a silent killer because it leads to stubborn body fat, accelerated aging, increased disease risk. It's the root cause of most chronic diseases. It's caused by a diet high in sugar and carbs and reversed by lowering carb intake. These are all things that we have control over. Watch what you're eating and watch how you're moving. And move frequently, move often. Now let's look into this linoleic acid. It almost sounds like linoleum. I wonder if this is something that you spray on your floors to clean it. Linoleic acid is an organic compound with the formula. Okay, we don't need that. Linoleic acid is an organic compound. It is a fatty acid. It's a salt. It's a polyunsaturated omega-6 fatty acid, a colorless liquid that is virtually insoluble in water but soluble in many organic solvents. It typically occurs in nature as a triglyceride rather than as a free fatty acid. Okay, so it sticks. It's not like a fatty acid that has the ability to carry proteins through your body. And that definitely makes sense as to why it's a bad thing that's caused from insulin resistance. It's something that serves no function for your body. Think about that when you go to plan your week of eating this week or next week or whenever you're listening to this. Or even if a week is too much for you, just think about for the day. Think about for the next meal. What is this for me? What does it contain? And what is every little portion of what I'm going to eat going to break down and turn into inside of me? All of the food that we eat, it's not just something that we put in our mouth for pleasure. Our body craves food for us to survive, for us to gain energy, for us to move forward, for us to be better or grow or get through the day, whatever it is. And a lot of things that we're taking in are taking away. Find those foods that have the building blocks to help you survive a better life and focus on them. And focus on them and focus on what you're working out for. You know, what are you doing? How are you building muscle? And I'll tell you how to build muscle with this thread from Mind Matter. The best exercises for each muscle group. And we'll start with biceps because obviously biceps are the most important muscle in the body. Without them, you can do nothing. They maintain so many functions and they are the reason we are strong. It's all in the biceps. So if you're going to do a bicep day and you want a 6 exercise bicep day, they say here the best exercises would be chin-ups, cable curls, hammer curls, barbell curls using an easy bar, incline dumbbell curl, and dumbbell preacher curl. Now, the reason why these are all the best is because you're getting full extension on them. With every single one of these exercises, you're going to hit the long head, the short head, and the brachialis of the bicep. Now, I can swear by chin-ups because, not to toot my own horn, but my arms are huge. And arms isn't something that I train. You know, I don't go in and have an arm day when it comes to the gym. Right now I do because I'm doing a bro split with my brother. But arm day is my least favorite day. I feel like I'm not working. I feel like I'm not doing anything on arm day. Where did my biceps come from? My biceps came from doing chin-ups. And I did chin-ups so I'd be able to do pull-ups, which is probably the most efficient exercise that you can do for your body. But a stepping stone to get to pull-ups is chin-ups. For triceps, you should be doing tricep dips, which are much different than chest dips, okay? When you're doing chest dips, you're leaning your torso forward. When you're doing tricep dips, you're holding your torso upright. And what you should focus on when you do those is pulling your shoulders back together, almost as if you're trying to make your shoulder blades touch one another. So dips, tricep press downs, lying tricep extensions, and single arm dumbbell overhead extensions. Press downs are very important because that is a functional movement that's in your life every day. We have push and pull muscles throughout our body. So when you're doing tricep extension or overhead extension, you're working on those pull muscles, okay? When you're doing dips and press downs, you're working on the push. And the push is a vital, vital function when it comes to what we do day in and day out. Me being a tradesman, working, wrenching every day, I need something that's going to help me push. And I'm not going to get that from my bicep, which is kind of designed to pull. I'm going to get that from stabilizing with my shoulder and stabilizing with my tricep and using as much of my body as I can to nudge whatever nut loose I'm looking for. Your back. Oh, look at this. Who would have knew? Pull-ups. Pull-ups is number 1 on the list. Shrugs for your trapezius. Cable face pulls. That's going to hit a lot of your posterior deltoids, which are a hard muscle to grab. Reverse grip lat pull down, which I love to do. That's also a good arm exercise. Wide grip front lat pull down. The reverse grip lat pull down is really going to help you build strength in your back, while the wide grip is going to help you build muscle. And then you have a seated cable row, which is a very great pulling exercise. You're pulling right into your chest. You're using almost every muscle in your back there when you squeeze, and you're engaging those muscles. Let's work on our shoulders. We have scaption raise, which is like, it's much like a shrug, but you're really focusing on just using the scapula. Front delt raise, barbell military press, seated dumbbell press, and a standing one-arm press. These are all great stabilizers. Shoulders are a very, very tricky exercise to do, and you see a lot of people doing strange things with them. The first thing that pops out to me is you don't see a lateral raise on here, which is great. I'm not a huge fan of the lateral raise. You put yourself at risk for rotator cuff injury or a shoulder impingement doing that motion, and especially when you're getting in there, trying to get after it and adding more weight to the bar. These are all great. Your shoulders are your stabilizers. They don't need to look amazing. They don't need to have all of the striations or anything like that. And when I talk about lifting weights, don't think about it as a bodybuilder. Think about it as somebody who wants to be functional and strong in their day-to-day life. Your chest, cable crossover, bench press, incline dumbbell press, push-ups, and chest dips. Push-ups, dips, wonderful, using your body weight, allowing you to be functional, allowing you to kind of work till failure in a way that's not going to hurt you. It's not going to put you in a precarious position as you would with other weights. Incline dumbbell press is great. I love that a lot more than incline bench because you can work one arm at a time. And when you have the ability to do that, you're really focusing on getting the work spread equally. When you're doing incline bench press, our shoulders become involved in the lift. And one side's always going to be stronger than the other. And naturally, your body is going to make that happen and use the strength from your stronger side. And you're not going to get the same gains as you would with a one-arm incline dumbbell press. Bench press is an overall strength compound exercise movement that I think everybody should do. It shouldn't be your heaviest lift, though. In the cable crossover. The cable crossover helps with a lot of pulling strength. It also is, this is one of those aesthetic exercises that I find to be functionally helpful as well. I mean, this is going to give you a great looking chest if you're doing cable crossovers. That's going to give you that, that little line in the middle of your chest where you're trying to build your titties. Then we'll move on to our legs here, which these right here, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a runner. I'm saying this is because this is the largest group of muscles in your body. This is the strongest group of muscles in your body, and this is what gets you through day to day. As you grow older, you're going to find yourself at risk for more trips, more falls, more slips, more turns, more twists, and everything that's going to help you survive through those damaging impacts is going to be strength in your legs. You need strong knees to get through life. How many people in your life, how many of the older people in your life have had a hip or a knee replacement or surgery and had it happen again and again and again, and they live miserably? Ways to avoid that are by doing squats, deadlifts, calf raises, split squats, leg extensions, seated leg curls, kettlebell swings, and Romanian deadlifts. The strength in your hamstrings are going to propel you forward when it comes to whatever quick movement you need to make. You need to have that propulsion from the backside of your body. Your posterior chain is your propulsion, and your anterior chain is your brakes. So that's why we're doing squats. Squats, the strength in your knees, the strength in your quadriceps, that's where your brakes are. That's what gets you to stop. Deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, those are all great ways to build up your hamstrings. Seated leg curls. I love doing seated leg curls because you're not in that bent back position like you are with other hamstring curls. And you really get to, if you get a seat in that seated leg curl and pull yourself all the way up forward, so you have, your back is probably at a 75 to 80 degree angle, you're going to get more extension out of your hamstring and build more strength there. Split squats and calf raises are awesome and great for ankle strength and ankle mobility. The stronger and more mobile we are from the bottom all the way up, the less we're going to put ourselves at risk for injury. And that's really the biggest thing when it comes to strength training is like you want to be somebody who's not going to hurt themselves doing day-to-day things. Nobody wants to say, I fell down the stairs and tore my Achilles. But some things are unavoidable. Just ask John Wall. When you go into the gym, those are great exercises. Those are great splits. If I were you, I would pick, 2 of those exercises from each section and make a workout for every day and go in and do full body stuff. Or find a way to hit each section of your body at least 2 times a week. You want to lift 3 to 5 times a week. I think that's the optimal way to gain the most strength and be the most ready for whatever comes up. Think about your strength training as a way to keep yourself healthy. It's not getting healthy. It's not getting big. It's not being strong. It's maintaining your level of life. So go into the gym and have a plan. Speaking of having a plan, I found this thread, and it's 5 habits that will fix 90% of your problems. Number 1 is plan your day the night before. Planning your day the night before is an incredibly popular productivity strategy. Get everything ready for the morning. Things seem simpler when everything is planned and handy. It gives you an idea of what you need to do on a day-to-day basis. Okay? And yes, you make a plan and God laughs at you. But if you have a plan, you're prepared. You know what you need to do before you get into what you have to do. Or vice versa. You can bang out what you have to do as it comes up and still know what you need to do. Because in the shuffle of a day-to-day life, you can forget some things from time to time. Nobody really wants to. Everybody wants to get everything that they need to get done, but sometimes things come up and your mind gets cloudy. But if you go through your day the day before, you know exactly what it is you need to make happen to be productive the next day. And that's kind of how I've lived my life now for the last 4 or 5 years. I know all of the things that I need to do, which allows me to dictate what I can and can't do when it comes to what I want to do. What you need to do needs to be the most important thing, and that needs to be what you're planning. What you want doesn't come into your plans. What you want is there for when you have the time. And if you have 5 minutes or less, do it. That's tip number 2. If you can do something that takes less than 5 minutes, do it right away. If you're getting those simple tasks done right away, you prevent a lot of clutter and stress later on. Number 3 would be creating a morning ritual. Have a morning ritual for yourself. Practice waking up early. Make time for that exercise. Make time for your meditation. The more you practice it, the more your life gets better. When it came to first turning my life around, a ritual, a routine is something that I stressed on that so much. I needed a routine. I needed structure for me to become who I am today. And that started with a ritual. Every day I would wake up and I would do my run. Now, right now, where my schedule's at, I'm not really able to do that, but I still have my morning ritual where I wake up and the first thing I do is I brush my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm thinking, what's next? And that's a good 2-3 minutes to plan out how you're going to attack your morning. And then I get into work. And that's kind of my morning ritual, is my 8-hour work shift. That's my ritual every day. Because once I get out, that's when my life begins. Number 4, follow the 80-20 rule. Invest most of your energy and time on those specific tasks that create the big impact and maximizes your productivity. 20% of the tasks yield 80% of the results. When I think about this in my life, 20% of my day, what would 20% of my day be? If there's 24 hours in a day, 10% would be what? 10% would be 2.5 hours. And I'm probably spending 2.5 hours on my fitness and my health. And I'm probably spending another hour on something that's productive when it comes to creativity. As of now, editing the podcast and finding topics and ways that I'm going to talk around them and find my way through them, that takes a bit of time. And that's time that I get to spend every day. What is the result that I'm getting from that? Fulfillment. What more results could you ask for in life? That's what we all want at the end of the day, is to be fulfilled. And number 5, the 5th habit you should form that'll fix 90% of your problems is getting enough rest. Because without enough rest, you can't improve your life. Not getting enough rest makes you cranky and reduces your ability to concentrate. Sleep is so important for our body and for our brain. That is where we get our recovery. That is where we build our energy. That is where the tissues in our body and our muscles have a chance to come back together and repair themselves, is when our body slows down. If you're not giving yourself enough time to slow down, you won't be able to speed up the way you want to. How do I know that? Because I've tried time and time again. There's a thing like, no sleep for the wicked, I'll sleep when I'm dead. All of that, it's just bravado. Because when you're tired, you are miserable. I've never met a person who's tired who's just so happy and elated. When you're tired, you show it. There's no way to hide that true exhaustion. I thought for a long time that I could get through day to day, and I remember when I was younger, like, pulling an all-nighter was the dream. That was the goal, right? Let me just stay up all night, see what that's like. And a lot of times I failed. I failed staying up all night. And I'm happy to say that. It taught me how much I needed to sleep. It showed me how much I needed rest. And that falls right in line with the last thing we're going to talk about, and that's another excerpt from the Tyler Bruno account that I've been quoting. It says to fail a lot and fail fast. It's the best thing you'll ever do. Failure isn't your enemy. It's your greatest teacher, your toughest coach, your most brutal but honest friend. Stop running from it. Stop fearing it. Embrace it. Every time you fail, life is handing you a golden ticket to growth. What do most people do? Crumple it up and throw away. They let their ego, their fear, rob them of life's greatest lessons. The most successful people you know aren't always succeeding. They fail, and fail more than anyone. The only difference is they don't let it define who they are. They stare failure in the face and become better. They constantly refine who they are in the face of failure, not let it defeat them. Every setback is setting you up for a comeback. With every failure, you're replanted where you bloom better than before. It acts as a stepping stone. This is all necessary despite the pain and suffering. It's part of your life. You can learn so much from failure. Let it act as your teacher. Rather than why me, ask what can this teach me? Stop trying to avoid failure. Start trying to fail better. Fail faster. The more you fail, the more you learn, which gets you closer to your goals. Have a flywheel of failure. It means you're growing and pushing yourself. If you never fail, are you even living? Think about that. Failure is unintuitive. It's actually a part of success. So next time you fail, and you will, don't hang your head. Keep your chin up and keep going. Embrace failure as your teacher. and there's nothing you can't learn or overcome. The choice is yours. Let failure defeat you or let it educate you. Choose wisely. Wise words from Tyler Bruno. I will say. And this is something that, once again, for the last 5 years of my life, I've really railed into myself. A big thing that, and I've said this to somebody once, they told themselves that they were a loser and they never amount to anything. And I just kind of thought, like, I had this thought, how do you know that? How can you tell yourself what you are when you're not dead yet? And that might be grim or harsh or brash, but that's the truth. We can't really define or say or put a label on our life while we're still living it. And you can't really learn or grow if you're not doing anything. If you're living in that comfortable pocket, where are you getting uncomfortable? Uncomfortability breeds the best part of you. The first time I went running, and I will tell this story for the rest of my life, I couldn't breathe after 45 seconds. I couldn't continue to run. And that fire that lit, that was the fuel that pushed me through a half marathon 8 months later in under 2 hours. Is that a world-class time? No, it's not. Is that a time that every average person gets? No, it's not. In that moment, from my failure, I went from being a failure and 8 months later being better than average. Do you think that's because I looked at that situation and said, man, this was so uncomfortable, I'm not doing that again? Or do you think that I was so uncomfortable in the failure that I had to do it and do it and do it again until I could? What do you think motivated me there? Not being able to do it. Not being able to do something should be the biggest motivation that you have as an adult. When you're young, when you're growing up, you get comforted so much. You find comfort and you find support in everywhere that you look. And that's awesome. That's great. That's what you need. That's what you need in order to understand what sympathy is. And that's what you need in order to empathize with other people. But in order to succeed, you have to understand that you're not going to be perfect every time you try something, no matter how much you want to be. It takes work. That's why my first podcast, maybe it's not as good as my second one, and my second one's not as good as my third. My third's definitely not as good as my fifth, and that's because I had to fail. I have to fail. If I'm going to be on this microphone and talking to you and giving you people what you need on a day-to-day basis, if you need anything, if you're not just trying to get entertainment, if you're coming here looking for encouragement and motivation, I'm going to have to suck at it for a little bit. Just like I sucked at life. Every lesson, every mistake that I made in the first 2/3 of my life to this point gives me the insight to be able to say the things that I could say to you today. You might have some people who go, oh, Sean's giving a motivational podcast. He's trying to inspire people. Where does that come from? Why does he feel like he has the right to do that? I get to do that because I stopped looking at every time I failed as the end of the road. I get to do that because I saw every single chance I made a mistake as a chance to correct myself. Every time I made a mistake, it became a chance. And I lived a life where I got far, far, far too many chances until I faced consequences. And once I did, I was glad. It gave me the insight, it gave me the wherewithal to know, oh, everybody isn't against me. I am against me. From trying to live the easiest life possible, from trying to make reality easier to deal with. Some things are never going to be easy to deal with. Some things you're never going to get over in life, but you have to get through. And I learned that from failing. I just celebrated 7 years sober from alcohol, and I did it on July 4th. Was that something that disturbed me? Did I look at it and go, oh, I'm a failure. I can't drink and celebrate July 4th. What I learned there is that everybody has a different set of wires in their brain, and we're all comprised differently, and some people it's just not for them. And I'm one of those people, and I can proudly say that. I fail at drinking. But failing at drinking has led me to success in life. Failing at partying has led me to success in health. You never know what you need to fail at. And that's why it's important to continue to try. Try new things. Constantly try new things. Don't live a comfortable life. Because one day, that comfortability will be gone. And if all you're used to is a comfortable situation, what do you do when it hits the fan? Ask yourself that when you're living comfortably. You're not expecting things to go haywire. But like I said, you make a plan and God laughs at you. If you avoid failure in your life, that doesn't show me that you're a winner. That doesn't show me that you've succeeded at everything. The only way you lose is by avoiding failure. Not every loss is a loss. Sometimes it's just a lesson. Open your head and try to learn. Look at things from different perspectives. Don't just think about things as you. Put your feet in somebody else's shoes, and it doesn't have to be another person in the same situation. Think of yourself as a random person, and how would they think of this? I know it's hard to do. I know it is. But perspective is key, and it's a builder. It can open up a lot of doors for you. If you're so comfortable being you, try to be somebody else for a day. And that'll show you what you really need. And by God, on that note, I hope that I gave y'all something that you really need, whether it was a laugh or encouragement or motivation or information. On this week's episode, I want to know one food that's your pleasure food that you think you need to cut out. So on the Q&A on Spotify, I'll have y'all fill that in, and I want to, really build up the cravings for myself and see what everybody's getting into. I hope everybody's summer's going great. I hope we're all building. I hope we're all learning. I hope we're all continuing to grow. And I'm happy that we're able to do it together. It's been awesome. This has been an awesome outlet for me. Get some things off my chest. Try and help some people. Try and make some people laugh. This episode probably wasn't all that funny, but I tell you what, it was jam-packed. And I'm happy to be back at it. This is great. Follow me on Twitter at BumpyBetSlips. Hit the Gmail at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Everything will be up. Go comment on the YouTube. Let me know what you're thinking about the episodes. And once again, just thank you for thumbing through the bookmarks with me. Have a great week.